What's going on, fight fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the main event right here on Franchise Sports Media. I'm Kalani Lua.
I'm Griff and Camp.
We are back, guys. Griff, man, oh man, let me tell you something. In a world of possibilities, I mean, we're on YouTube.
We're present.
Do you ever see a possibility that somewhere down the road, one of us stepping in with an absolute MMA legend in a boxing match and coming out victorious?
Every time we get a little beef between you and me, I think you and I might step in with each other, but with an MMA legend, a GOAT, not very likely.
Well, the beef between us generally comes on a roll, some mayonnaise, some cheese, things of that nature. But we are talking about Jake Paul defeating the MMA great Anderson Silva. Now, granted, yes, Silva is 47 years old. You have to throw that out there. He signed the dotted line. He stepped in the ring. He's still 47 years old. There were reports that maybe he had got knocked out twice in training camp leading into this, but nonetheless, Jake Paul Silva went 8 rounds. In the end, Paul's hand was raised. What do you make of this particular outcome on this matchup?
I just think it's crazy that the entire card, obviously this card was built by Jake Paul and his corporation, but the crazy thing to me was that watching the fight, it was entertaining as hell. I mean, oh my God. The first round, Jake Paul comes out. Obviously, we all knew he was going to come out trying to go and blitz Silva, and he came out the way we all expected. But then the second round happens, and Anderson Silva is dog walking him. He's getting him bad. And honest to God, it was the first time I've ever seen in one of these fights with Jake Paul. That was the first time I've seen him flustered and seen like he was actually kind of getting beat up a little bit. From the first to the 8th round, it was crazy. It was entertaining. Hats off to both of the fighters.
You know, this is a fight where if you look at it again on paper, you're like, wait, what am I watching here? But then you tune in and like you said, okay, you do have young Jake Paul, big, strong guy, heavy-handed in the right.
Yes.
He's coming in looking to, hey, I need to try to blitz him early. Silva, as we know from his UFC and MMA days, very slick and methodical. Takes about 3-4 minutes, kind of fills you out, does all the feints and moving
crazy
and sounds
movement,
around.
dancing.
And then once he finally figures things out on what you want to do, next thing you know, he's coming forward or he's countering you really well with his combinations. I felt that with Silva, and again, he's 47 years old. I felt that his age showed as the fight went on, he slowed down. He wasn't able to put, because if I feel personally, there were moments where if he kept his foot on the gas pedal, if maybe not knockout, but I felt he would have got a TKO finish with Jake Paul standing up. There were moments where it looked like this is it for Paul. Silva just couldn't keep his gas up. Credits to Paul for being able to withstand the fire on it.
Yes.
Paul even got a knockdown on Silva.
A nasty one, too.
A nasty one at the end. Dropped him with the right, put him down. Okay. I got to say this. Twofold real quick, and I want to get your thoughts on it. One, is it time that we kind of put a little bit of respect on Jake Paul's name for stepping in the ring?
I think so. And the thing is, like, yeah, he just beat up a man who's damn near 50. But the thing is, with every single fight he's been in, Jake Paul has showed some type of improvement.
Yes.
He showed that in every fight. We knew he had the knockout power. We knew he could, get up on you and he's a big dude. What people don't realize.
Very much so.
Yeah, he's a big old man.
Yes.
But in this fight, what I think was really impressive, it was 2 things. One, it was his strategy going in. I loved the fact that when the second round started and Anderson Silva was really getting going and he had Jake with his back against the wall, he was able to endure that. He was able to get beat up a little bit. He was able to be down and withstand it and find a way to win. And then the second thing, like with this strategy, he was going to the body. Like, he was going to the body a lot with Silva. When Silva was getting him with those strikes to the head, he was countering. He wasn't looking to go back and forth with him, looking for knockout strikes. He was trying to hit him in the abdomen, and that was affecting Anderson's cardio. And I mean, what's the best strategy if you're going up against a man in his 40s who is a great striker? Attack his cardio.
I just watched Rocky. Go to the body. Go to the body.
Exactly. So the fact that he was able to do that and withstand all the beating, it's a lot of improvement, and it might be getting to that point where we got to actually call Jake Paul a boxer.
Well, I mean, you could call him a boxer now. Obviously, the boxing community may not see it that way, but this was the first time he stepped in there with someone you felt was a respectable opponent. Granted, and I hate to keep emphasizing this, Silva's 47 years old.
Yes.
Okay. He's only got 5 fights himself, but on the scale of evenness, outside of age, it was across the board fairly even. You said, okay, he doesn't have many boxing matches himself. You guys are going at it. He's around your height, your size physically. He's not a basketball player. He's not another YouTuber. He's not a blown up welterweight UFC fighter. He's not a wrestler. He is a striker by trade. So now you look at it and say, okay, Jake, let's see what you can do. Moments where he looked like, okay, you still have a lot of improvement to do. But like you pointed out, you also showed growth, maturity, grit, determination, a very good game plan. I'm not ready to sit here and put the pom-poms in the air for Jake Paul, but I do have to start respecting the fact that he's fighting names you kind of want to see. You know, the Ben Askren one was a bit weird, but I get it. It's only your second, third fight as a boxer.
Right.
I'm not trying to fight Roy Jones Jr. here,
no.
But now he goes on and says, okay, I'll fight a former champion, Tyron Woodley, twice. I finish him. I'll fight another former champion, a legend, a middleweight at that, in Anderson Silva. Where he goes next, we'll dive into that very shortly.
Right.
Is determined, but he's showing I'm willing to fight guys. Look, he was going to fight Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's younger brother. Apparently Fury, this one, he enjoys the party just a little too much. Has some other issues as well going on visa-wise, but he is showing that he is willing to go out there and fight. Speaking of willing to go out there and fight, he made a call out. There was a certain person in the crowd. Apparently videos are circulating that maybe both their camps got into it behind the scenes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did.
Did we maybe see a future matchup already be set in Jake Paul versus the Stockton Bad Boy 209 stand up and Nate Diaz? Nate just left the UFC.
Yeah.
Paul Diaz, is that the fight to make next for 2023?
I believe so. I think so. I think Nate Diaz's entire career with the UFC literally came to an end because of the rumors that he wanted to leave and fight Jake Paul and get the big money. All right. I think it's not really a question of is Nate Diaz next. I think it's more of a question of what kind of draw does that fight have? How many eyeballs is that going to bring in? And I think it has a lot. It has a lot of draw. Yes, he's fighting another technically retired MMA fighter. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's not fighting a boxer yet, but they're gonna box. They're gonna be in the ring. Mm-hmm. But Nate, obviously, the name itself, you have the name. You have Nate Diaz is a striker. Is he the greatest striker the MMA's ever seen? No, but no. He's been boxing.
He's considered a boxer, jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yes. So. And I mean, can you imagine the press conference?
Oh man,
there's water balls going to be thrown. I guarantee it.
Can we please have subtitles? Please,
you're sick for that. You're sick for that.
This stuff is hard sometimes. Goodness. Okay, all I'm asking is please have subtitles with the bouncy ball to go with it because
it blows up yellow,
highlighted as it goes through. Because oh boy, that is going to be a tough one.
Nate is a poet. Let's just give him that.
I mean, that's one word to give him. But I agree with you. It is going to be something. The name value itself, the hype, the rivalry between it. Silva and Paul felt more so just like a competitive matchup. Mm-hmm. Hey, you're boxing, I'm boxing. Let's go ahead and fight each other. Pay-per-view numbers did not do well. They did not do well. They're coming in. I looked online. They said it was around 200 or 300,000 buys. Yep. Not good. Ticket sales were around 14,000, about 4,000 shy of selling out. A lot can go into that. You throw in, obviously with inflation, you throw in the fact that, okay, is this fight really going to happen? Because remember, the week of, Silva then gets called that he might not be able to fight because he got knocked out twice. Right. It's a 47-year-old. And while we in the MMA and boxing community have been watching these guys, Silva's been out of the quote-unquote limelight as the GOAT for quite some time.
Right.
Doesn't have the same ring to his name as when he did have the championship belt in the UFC. And he was the most dominant guy. So there was a little bit of that as well. And I'll be honest, Griff, some of these matchups, as good as they are and as fun as they are to kind of look at, I look at that pay-per-view number and I'm like, I'm not spending my money on that. I already have NFL Sundays. I already got college football. I already have other things coming up. The holidays are right around the corner. Mm-hmm. I'm not choking out my money for guys who are not at that elite level yet. It's different if this is let's just say Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Conor McGregor, Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev, etc. That's different. We're talking about a YouTuber with 5 fights. We're talking about an MMA legend, but only has 5 boxing matches. Right. I'm not really trying to shuck out $60 to $70 for this particular matchup. Do you think maybe either the pricing or putting it on pay-per-view in general kind of hurts the buildup of what this could be? I feel if this was on regular cable, streaming services maybe, the numbers are bigger.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Maybe the pay-per-view points aren't where they need to be. Maybe, they're not getting the view. Maybe they didn't get the views that they were hoping for. But keep in mind, we're talking about Jake Paul. And Jake Paul, he lives in the world of the internet. Yes, he wants to have people pay and watch these fights, and he needs to be able to report that, oh, look how much I brought in. Look how much money me and this guy just got for fighting. But he lives in the internet world as well. And I could tell you, Anderson and Jake Paul, that fight was being talked about. It was a lot of chatter on everything you could find. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. People were talking about the fight.
Sure.
And I think that's a win for Jake. Jake sees that and he's probably thinking that's still a win, because as long as people are talking and as long as people want to talk about and hear about and know what's going on with Jake Paul in his boxing career, his career lives. His career will continue to go on.
His career is going to go on, but at the end of the day, he's also a businessman. And he's also looking at those ticket sales and those pay-per-view numbers. That's where the money's at. Yeah, talking about me is fine, but I'm a trend regardless. I'm a trend when I come out and say something during the week, when I do an interview with Ariel Helwani, maybe an interview in the future with the Main Event right here on Franchise Sports Media.
Come on by, baby.
But he's on a trend regardless. I need those numbers to look right. That way it could justify me getting these big arenas, me putting on this type of show so that I can have the finances to afford it. I've made my finances, but I need to be able to pay the rest of these fighters. Yes. I need to be able to put on these fantastic shows. That only continues to happen if I can have good numbers. People tuning in, people buying tickets. I'm not going to lie. I kind of thought about maybe going to Arizona and getting a ticket, but then again, flight tickets, hotel, ticket itself, concessions, coming back. It's like, you add that with everything else I mentioned before, and you're like, I pass on this one. It's not must see. Must see could be Paul versus Diaz. That remains to be seen.
Right.
On when that announcement happens, where it will be. It'll be interesting to check out.
I will say, right before we get off the topic, Jake Paul was in an interview with Ariel Helwani, and he did mention, which I've been waiting for him to mention. I've been waiting for Jake Paul to say something about it. Is it a possibility we see him and Floyd get in the ring? Don't you sleep on that. Don't you sleep on that. Jake, Floyd is still out here with a fresh hairline, all right? He's looking good. He's still out here doing exhibition fights. Hell, you got beat by the big brother who's a scrub in the boxing ring. Go take on little brother who took your hat, has had a tattoo on his leg, just memorizing the fact that he took your hat. That right there maybe get the pay-per-view points that he's looking for. Oh, you're a hater. You're a hater. Come on.
Griff, I apologize. I do want to say thank you for that nap right there.
Oh, my God.
Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd
Mayweather.
Pretty boy Floyd. Come on.
Taking on guys in Japan who are 100 pounds soaking wet with all of their gear on.
He's Floyd. He's undefeated.
Floyd Mayweather. No.
He's undefeated. Look, he can beat anybody.
I can see him doing that someday, and Mazel Tov. Good for him. Congrats, brother. Go get it. I ain't doing it, and I can tell you that right now. He done got me for my money enough times through his boxing career. I'll be damned if he gets me for money in his exhibition career. I'll be damned.
You telling me Pretty Boy Floyd's afraid of Jake?
No. I'm saying he probably will fight him. But Floyd's style and how he goes about it, guess what? I'm not tuning in, Griff, to buy those pay-per-views. I'm not tuning in for those fights. I tune into enough Floyd Mayweather pay-per-views during his pro boxing career to be let down almost every single time, outside of the fact I get to trash talk to people who were there watching it with me going against him. Outside of that, I've never gone back to watch any of his fights. I've gone back to watch highlights just because you take the best parts of it. I've never rewatched one Floyd Mayweather fight. I'd be damned if I shuck out money to see him in an expedition just to see the same thing at an older age, taking on guys he's got no business. He might as well fight me if that's the case.
You don't want to pay to see him fight. Would you pay to see him get knocked out?
Just like you paid 50 other times to see him get knocked out? That never happened.
This could be
just like you paid 4 or 5 other times to see him get knocked out in exhibitions?
God.
That never happened. Yeah, sure. Hey. Do you want to see Usain Bolt lose a race at the Olympics? Do you want to see that?
Kind of do, yeah.
It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen, okay? It ain't going to happen.
Every time Brady loses a Super Bowl, it's always the most memorable one.
Is it?
Which one of his Super Bowls stands out more than a loss?
Whoa. Say that one more time.
How many of Tom Brady? We're getting into football.
Say that one more time, though.
I'm saying, when Tom Brady loses the Super Bowl, is that more memorable, or when he wins 1 out of 1,000 that he has?
Name the 2 that he lost.
He lost to Eli Manning twice, and he lost to a backup. What was his name? Who gives a hell?
Can't even think of the backup's name.
Don't even care.
The only reason the Manning one was good is because that was an undefeated season for the Patriots.
Okay.
And the Giants made that miraculous catch. Outside of that, you don't rewatch any of those Super Bowls. You might rewatch the Philadelphia one because that actually was entertaining with all the offense against Nick Foles, by the way. But those 2 against the Giants, those against the Giants, those are not watchable games. Granted, for the Giants, it was great, but those are not watchable games. Guess what? Didn't he beat Kansas City? Didn't he come back 25 points down against Atlanta? That was pretty good, wasn't it? The only reason that's not as memorable is because it's the Atlanta Falcons and nobody pays attention to them. Just like nobody pays attention to all these no-namers across the world that Floyd Mayweather fights. Nobody's paying attention to that. We follow this stuff. I don't even know who Hiroshiko Nakamoko Nakamoka. I don't even know who that is. And you want me to be invested in Floyd Mayweather? No. But I'll tell you what I am invested in.
What's that?
I'm invested in fighters like Ryan Garcia, who want to have the same type of legacy Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hitman Hearns, Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya, the list goes on. Ryan Garcia says, hey, I'm frustrated. We have all these great fighters around the same age in their primes. None of us for fighting each other. What is the problem here? I really, honestly, Griff, just a moment, I really thoroughly believe no fighter, MMA or boxing, male, female, is afraid of another fighter before the fight. Now, sometimes you might get in there and realize, ooh, they hit harder than I thought.
He's strong.
He's strong. You might think that. Got it.
Right.
But initially, you don't get into a profession of fighting, punching someone in the face for a living and getting punched in the face for a living because you're afraid. No, so I don't think it's the fighters who are afraid. It's the promoters. It's the greedy, and we've always known this, but it's the greedy promoters who have kept this sport up right now. Right now, we got Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko, who fought this past weekend, nobody talked about it.
Nobody did.
Nobody talked about his return because we're all talking about Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. Now, granted, Lomachenko didn't fight a big name fighter like a Devin Haney, a Shakur Stevenson, a Teofimo Lopez. He didn't fight none of those guys. But you have all those names that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
They're not fighting each other. You got Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, who we thought majority of this year, at some point, we're going to end the year fighting each other. Now they're not taking on each other. You got Fury and Joshua who have been trying to fight each other for King of England for how many years? That hasn't come to fruition. Boxing fell by the wayside, not just because it has 20 champions in every division, but because the biggest fights are not made when they're supposed to be made. One particular reason, Floyd Mayweather. What him and Manny Pacquiao did, drawing that out for 5-6 years, and then getting the big money that they did for it. Now every promoter's like, that's what we need to do. We saw Oscar De La Hoya do it.
Yep.
Griff, Garcia's got a point. I mean, how do we fix this?
I mean, what he said in his tweet, how boxing is boring. Obviously, if whoever reads the tweet, if they don't, just based off that one line right there, if you read it all the way through, he's not talking about the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
As we all know, boxing is entertaining.
No, but boxing is fantastic.
Absolutely. People tuned in to watch a 59-year-old Mike Tyson fight. I mean, boxing will entertain, whether it's Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder or any Canelo Alvarez fight or anything. People will tune in to watch. It's not boring. It's mishandled.
Yeah.
They need to take a note out of Dana White and the UFC's playbook. They need to see how they've been bringing up, how they've made this company and have now passed boxing as probably the #1 combat sport in the world.
Oh, they did that a long time ago.
They did a long time ago. And now you have, like you said, there's fights that people are clamoring for, and they're just not giving them to us. They're not booking them. I mean, how long did it take for Canelo and Triple C to get the trilogy finished up?
About 12 years.
About 12 freaking years. How long have we been waiting for Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua to get in the ring?
about 15 years.
As long as the men have been living.
Yeah.
All right. Like Ryan Garcia himself, him and Tank Davis, they both said they've agreed to the fight. They both want to fight. They're ready to do it. But it's a problem with broadcasting.
Broadcasting.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what they're worried about. And here's the crazy part about boxing. None of these fights are replayed on the major sports channels.
No.
Afterwards. It's on whatever network, HBO, Showtime, etc. A week later, they show it again as a replay. They might show it 2 more times after that, then it's gone. And if you go on those apps, half the time it's not even in the sports section to rewatch. If I go on HBO Max right now, how many big time boxing matches has HBO had do you think is in their library? Hardly any. Same thing when I go to Showtime. If I go to their sports section, I go to their boxing matches. How many big time boxing matches do I get to see? Maybe I get to see Tyson versus Razor Ruddock. Cool. That's not the Tyson fight I'm trying to go back and watch. So it's a major problem. It's frustrating. It makes you want to pull your hair out. Dana White clearly did it, hence why he's bald.
Yes.
But it is
ripped now.
It's awesome. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
But it is awesome that now we have fighters calling this out. The governing bodies, I'm not even going to lie. I wouldn't be mad if the government stepped in. And said, hey, yeah, if they stepped in and said, you can't deny these guys because they're independent contractors. Yeah. You can't deny these guys work. You can't hold up the sport when there's clearly nobody else for them to fight. You can't hold up the sport because you're trying to be greedy to gain more money out of people. Mm-hmm. People want to tune in and see these things. This is how you build those long-lasting legacies. Where right now in 2022, we talk about guys from the 80s fighting, and we still remember and love those guys for fighting each other. Granted, they didn't all fight each other one after another right away, but still, they all fought each other within a timely manner. We want to see that now in boxing. We've been wanting to see it. Give it to us. It's better for the sport. But greed, one of the sins. Greed, it takes over everything.
Praise God, boy. You better look at yourself in the mirror. All right, if you're holding up money, you're holding up fans from seeing the beauty of boxing, the sweet science, you need to go to church.
Speaking of looking in the mirror, just very quickly as we wrap it up here on the main event.
Yep.
Colby Covington versus Hosman is being negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
Aljamain Sterling maybe doesn't want to give Sugar Sean O'Malley a shot right away. We'll see. That sounds like a contract negotiation right there as far as location and principle of the whole matter.
Possibly running away from one Henry Cejudo.
Or is he trying to run towards that and say, no, I don't want Sugar Sean. I want Triple G.
I want that money.
I want Triple C. I want the big fight against the returning champion, the Olympic gold medalist. It's a lot going on here. Hamza versus Colby. That is going to be fantastic if those two finally square up against each other. We got John Jones is supposed to come back next month.
Oh, God,
but things between the UFC and Stipe are not going the way. And Jones is like, hey, man, I'm here to fight. I'm ready to go. What's the deal? Griff, it's a lot going on. It's a lot to unpack.
We are in for a treat. 2022 is not over yet.
2022 is not over. And
no,
folks,
sir.
We are not over here at the main event right here on Franchise Sports Media. Be sure to tune in to our next episode as we dive in more as we're wrapping up 2022 here. It is coming to an end, but just wait. There is still more. Thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the main event right here on Franchise Sports Media.
I'm your host, Griff and Kemp.
I'm your other host, Kalani. Till next time, fight fans. Peace.